tonight and our speakers. We have a guest. We have our first speaker, which is Aziz Bagoma. And he's been a member for a period of time with us here at Queen City Toastmasters, and we certainly welcome him. His speech is going to be, take this job and shove it. Oh, yeah. Or, how can I overcome my fear of failure and fire my boss? Please welcome Aziz.
Fellow Toastmasters, take this job and
shove it.
Everybody knows that saying. It's one of those universal sayings that everybody recognizes. Somehow we can all relate to it, right? We all have this fantasy of walking into our boss's office one day, Monday morning, strolling in, looking him in the eye and saying, Mr. So-and-so, I just won the lottery, so you can take this job and shove it. And then as you walk back out, all your fellow employees look and they slow clap and give you high fives as you walk out the door, and the boss is sitting there with his mouth wide open, can't figure out what the heck just happened. That is a universal thought. And one of the things that I noticed is that, well, by a show of hands, how many people in here like their jobs?
Kind of okay.
How many people in here love their jobs? And here's the clincher. How many of you would actually do your jobs without getting paid for it? Okay, so 1.5. Okay, there's a study that says that 85% of people hate or dislike their jobs. Okay? Now, every time I see that stat, I say to myself, that's really, really interesting, because not only that it's so lopsided, 85%, that's 8.5 out of every 10 people really hates their jobs. But how and why that kind of thing happens? And the question for me is always, well, if you hate your job so much, why are you still there? Why aren't you doing anything to get out of your job or change your career or change your life? And it has special meaning for me because I was one of those 85%. If you remember from my icebreaker speech, I grew up in New York, and after college, I went to work in Manhattan. And I took a job at a bank, not because I was so happy about banking, but because back in those days, banks were pretty safe. Okay? Banks didn't fold back in the 90s, and late 80s. It was very, very rare. So that kind of thing didn't happen. So straight out of school, I said, well, I'll get a job at a bank, work for 30 years, get my gold watch when I retire, have my 401k, and I'm all set. But I hated my job. Absolutely hated my job. I was one of these people who woke up in the morning, trudged to Broadway, took the number 2 train to Midtown Manhattan, and went into work. And so I'm always fascinated by people who were in that position, because I myself was also in that position. The thing that kept me from changing my situation was a fear of failure. Now, I mentioned a couple of weeks ago that I was reading a book called Failing Forward by John Maxwell. Okay, it's a great book, and it ties into what I do for a living. I'm a business coach. I'm a personal and business coach. I work with people who have small businesses or who want to start small businesses. And most of the time, these people are transitioning from having a job that they hate, just like I did, just like most of you are, to finding something that they're very good at, something that comes naturally to them, and something that has tangible investment, something that they can make money on. Okay, so whatever skills they might have, these are people that I talk to all the time. So I hear these stories all the time. And the main thing that I see from them is they have a genuine fear of failure. That's the main thing that they're scared of. And it comes from how we are fed failure when we grow up. We are fed to think that failure is measurable. Okay, 65 and below, you fail. 65 and above, you pass. We are fed with the thought that failure is permanent. If you fail out of high school, some people think you're a failure. But then you have a Bill Gates, okay, who didn't finish college, or Mark Zuckerberg, who didn't finish college. These are the richest men in the world, so are they really failures? And by whose standards are they failures? And also, we're fed that failure is avoidable. And what we should appreciate is failure is not avoidable. In fact, you should look to fail. Well, how does the old saying go? If at first you don't succeed, you
Try again.
okay. We can take that a step further and say, if at first you do succeed, try something harder. Because the whole point is you want to keep trying different things so that you give yourself a chance to fail. And when you do, you can come back, do it again, only make sure you don't make the same mistakes the first time that led to your failure. So failure is not permanent, and it should be something that's embraced and pursued. You should run after failure. You should live your life as though failure is something you're looking forward to, not something you want to run away from. Now, I'm pretty sedulous about this topic because it kind of fits into my whole philosophy and my own experience. I actually walked into the office one day after vacation, and I walked up to my boss and I said, "Sir, take this." I didn't say that. I didn't tell him to take this job, but I said I quit. And he looked at me and he said, "Why?" And I said, "I've just had enough. That's it." And it was the best decision I ever made in my whole life. And I got past that fear of failure, and I want to sort of pass that on to everybody else. So, first thing you do Monday morning, walk in your office, tell your boss to take this job and shove it, and if you need any help getting started on your new life, your unemployed life, come talk to me.